Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/Petty Revenge. Because sometimes you only need to get small victories over those who've wronged you. Guys, not everybody needs their lives totally destroyed and turned upside down. So today I've got some stories that are mostly harmless, and I hope will give you guys a few good laughs. In this episode, there's going to be 5 petty revenge stories, so sit back, relax, and do take notes, my friends, because you're about to learn a few things. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future stories.
Do it!
So I'm a bartender, and the area I work in is upper class and petty as hell. As I tell people all the time, I don't go out there, I just work there. One random night not too long ago, I'm making drinks for servers to take to their customers at their tables while the other bartenders handle our top bar guests. It's the middle of our rush, and one of my servers comes back with a glass that's a quarter full and sets it down saying that the customer hates it and was demanding a different drink. Specifically, they wanted a vodka mojito. I was too busy to put up a fight, and the poor girl looked run down already from the night, so I went ahead and made it, even though it was obvious that the woman was just looking for a free drink. So the server runs the drink back to the table, and it just happens to be the table closest to me, so I can see and hear everything. She sets it down and hurries off to another table waving her down, and I watch as this woman slams the drink until there's nothing but mint and ice left in the glass with maybe half an ounce of liquid in the bottom. She then turns around and grabs the server again, and she says, I specifically asked for this with vodka. The server tells her, yes ma'am, it is with vodka, and she said, I know what vodka tastes like, and this is clearly rum. Tell your bartender to make it right this time, because I'm not paying for this. The server tried to say something, but was rudely cut off and told to get it remade again, so she picks up the glass and walks over to me, and she says, I'm so sorry OP, and I immediately tell her that it's okay, I saw the whole thing. I said, girl, don't worry, I got you. So I remade the woman's drink. One virgin mojito coming up. Nothing but mint, lime, simple, and soda water. I cannot explain the satisfaction we both felt when the drink hit the table and we watched the woman sip it and go, now that is vodka. You get what you pay for. Guys, that petty revenge was great. Now that's vodka. No ma'am, that's not even close. That's the satisfying taste of you getting served a virgin drink and having to pay full price for it. I wonder how many people actually try doing this to get free drinks. My friends, if you've ever worked in the industry, let me know if this has ever happened to you, because I'd love to know. So, let me lay out the scene for you. This happened about a year back late in the evening. I was hanging out at my cousin's place and had to head home to feed my dogs. Let me explain our parking since I had taken the car out. There was a property next to our house that belongs to my father's brother. There is nothing constructed on it, but there's like 5 truckloads of dirt and mud with enough space by the road for a couple of cars. And that's where we always park our vehicles. So as I reach home, I see an unknown vehicle parked in my space and was visibly annoyed because this happens every time. Either someone parks in our space or double parks and blocks us in. So I decided to serve some petty revenge. I carefully parked my car in such a way that I was blocking him in and at the same time not blocking him. There was enough space that if he wiggled his car back and forth, he'd be able to get out without damaging any vehicles parked there. After that was done, I headed home, served the dogs, and headed for a shower. Now, I take long showers and had to dress up because I was heading back to my cousin's place. So it was about 2.5 hours later after I was done with everything. I head back down and get on my bike ready to leave when I see someone trying to flag me down. I head over to see a guy maybe in his late 20s asking me if that's my car. I ask him which one, the one that's blocked in or the one doing the blocking. He gets annoyed and points to my car, to which I confirm that it is my car. He demands that I move it immediately, and he was over an hour late for something. I then asked him whether this was his property and if he was allowed to park there. And he said he knew the people who stayed in that house, and they gave him permission to park there. The idiot was pointing at my house, and I know for a fact that nobody gave him permission to park there. I had the biggest smile on my face when I told him that the house he was pointing at was my house. This was my property, and he didn't have permission to park there. His face lost all expression, and he was visibly flustered. He then continued to demand that I move my vehicle so he could leave, and I told him that he should have just thought about that before parking on private property. I then got on my bike and I left. His face was priceless. I returned home a few hours later to find the car was gone. I went to check to see if he had damaged my car, but surprisingly he left without any damages on the car. People can be so entitled sometimes. Guys, OP is so lucky that the guy didn't get malicious or anything and decide to leave a deep scar in the paint. But just by scrolling through the comments, OP did mention that he took pictures of the guy's license plate before he enacted this revenge. Well done, sir. Well done. This happened a couple of Christmases ago, but someone told me to post the story here, so here I am. About 4 months before Christmas 2018, my boyfriend at the time accidentally spilt a drink on his laptop and he wrecked the thing. He couldn't afford a new one and it was his main source of entertainment, so I said he could borrow mine since I didn't use it that often. Everything was fine until Christmas that year. He still hadn't gotten himself a new laptop by that point, but I assumed that's because he was saving up to get himself a decent laptop rather than a crappy one he could barely afford. Anyway, he handed me my gift, and to my surprise, it was a brand new laptop. I assumed that he bought me a laptop to replace my old one and was gonna take my old laptop for himself. But nope. His gift to me was buying himself a new laptop so that he didn't have to use mine anymore. Nothing else. It was just that. I was outraged, but then a petty thought crossed my mind. Little did he know that I had fallen into a little bit of money, so I decided to surprise him with a top-of-the-range gaming laptop, which was easily more than double the price and quality of the one he bought for himself. So then, I decided to give him his present. When he opened it, his eyes lit up, and he looked so excited at the prospect of a new laptop. But when he started to open it, I took it back from him and told him that was actually for me, and my gift was letting him keep his new laptop without me trying to use it all the time. Of course, we got into a massive argument that eventually led to us breaking up, and thankfully we exchanged gifts a few days before Christmas, so that day wasn't ruined, and I returned the laptop and used the money to go on a spontaneous holiday with my friend for New Year's Eve. No regrets. This petty revenge story reminds me of that one Simpsons episode where for Marge's birthday, Homer gets her a bowling ball with his name engraved on it. And of course, she's never bowled in her life. With that said, that was a pretty selfish move on his part. Who the heck gives someone a gift that they'll end up using 100% of the time? Oof. Back around 2000 to 2002, my dad and a friend started a company. They put in the grueling and overwhelming amount of work necessary for it to have grown exponentially over the last 20 years. A couple of years ago, they had an opening for a technical editor, and my dad offered me the position. Every year during the holiday season, they, like most businesses, throw a holiday party. The first year I attended the party, nobody knew who I was. I tend not to share who I'm related with for obvious reasons, unless somebody asks. It's not a secret by any means, but it's not something I shout from the rooftops. Anyway, the bar opened an hour before the party technically started, and since it's an open bar, a few people were already quite a few drinks in. I went up to get a drink, and somebody who I've never met introduced himself to me in a pretty rude and arrogant way. I'm talking, you probably already know who I am, but if you don't, you should. He was clearly pretty drunk, but it's a party and I don't blame him. I shook his hand and tried to walk away, but he wouldn't stop talking about how important he was to the company. I smiled and nodded and oohed and awed for quite a while, even as he spilled his drinks on me from gesturing wildly. Eventually he told me, I'm also really close with the president. That interested me quite a bit, because that was my dad, and I literally never heard this person's name. Not a problem though, because I don't know all of his friends. But this dude kept going, and here's how the conversation went. He said, yeah, you could pretty much call us family friends. I said, really? You know his family? Oh yeah, of course. We've gotten together a few times. His kids love me. I told him, wow, that's pretty cool. I wasn't planning on saying anything because he was drunk and it didn't really matter to me. However, he then turns around and says, okay, well, I have more interesting people to talk to now. And he walked away. I was livid. First of all, you spilt your crappy dirty martinis all over me, and I smell like olives, and you were kind of a dick from the get-go, and you waste 30 minutes bragging about yourself, and then you tell me that I'm uninteresting? So I waited until the perfect moment when the party had started to taper off a bit. Our guy was still there, even more drunk than he was before. He eventually made his way over to my dad and my mom, chatting them up and whatnot. I sidle over to the group and he gives me a stink eye, probably thinking that I'm trying to cozy up to them too. The look of horror on his face when my dad hugs me and kisses me on the cheek and says, hey honey, your brother is coming to pick us up. Do you need a ride? Was indescribable. He turned pale and looked like he was gonna jump out of a window. It was genuinely one of the best small revenges of my life. In case anybody wonders, him and I laugh about the incident now, and it's not a big deal. It's a funny story that I like to tell. I love how that guy gets shut down, and all OP had to do was wiggle her way into her dad's view. Guys, I would have loved to have been there just to see his face. I was reading through the comments though, and OP did mention that they now get along very well. So, hey, pretty wholesome ending to that story. Years ago when I was a youngster, just starting to make my way in the adult world, I took a job at a machine shop. Since I was the new guy, and a lot younger than the rest of the crew, I had to put up with a lot of practical jokes as a type of initiation hazing. It was all in good fun mostly, so I went along with the jokes knowing that the guys would give up after a while. I was right, and after a few weeks when the others realized that I was a decent guy and they could rely on me to hold up my end of the work, they eased up on the teasing. All of them except for one guy. He was the shop troublemaker, and while most people got along with him, nobody really liked him. This fellow was bald as an egg without a single hair on his head, and because we were an intellectual group, he was given the nickname Baldy. When the rest of the fellows quit their teasing of me, Baldy doubled his efforts, and his pranks took on a mean-spirited quality. Tools I needed would go missing, or he would accidentally bump the emergency stop-on machines that I operated, causing me to have to reset and reload the job. It got to the point that this harassment was degrading the quality of my work, and every time I called him out on it, he just told me to do something about it, trying to provoke a confrontation. So I did something about it. I figured the best way to deal with this guy was to turn the tables on him, giving him a taste of his own medicine and make him look foolish in front of all the other employees. This was an industrial setting, so everybody wore the usual protective gear. The hard hats, the gloves, the safety glasses, the works. At break times, Baldy was in the habit of putting his gear in his toolbox, topping the pile with his upside-down hard hat. When we broke for lunch, I filed out to the break room with the rest of the crew and then doubled back into the shop through another door. I went straight to Baldy's workstation and filled the bottom of his white hard hat with at least an inch of similarly colored half-and-half coffee creamer. I double-checked that the casual glance at the hat wouldn't raise any suspicions, then rejoined my fellows and had a very nice lunch. Break time was over, and we all went back to the shop. I hid around a corner giggling as Baldy geared up to start work. He picked up his hard hat and plopped it on his head. And as he did so, all of that half and half ran all over his safety glasses and all over his face in a thick, sticky stream of goo. He stood there sputtering and cursing at the top of his lungs, while the rest of the crew gathered around him laughing and shouting encouragement. Baldy always hated me after that, but he never messed with me again. And nobody called him Baldy anymore either. He'd always hated that nickname, but I think he would have readily gone back to it if he could, because his new nickname among the crew was Money Shot. Now that was a satisfying ending to a great petty revenge. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /petty revenge. Guys, if you aren't subscribed, do hit that subscribe button for future stories. And if you missed the last episode I did, a Karen claims that she's married to an owner, and she makes a fool out of herself, just to get some pizza. Come on. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.